watching NotesIn9.
Hello and welcome to NotesIn9. This is episode 207, Send Attachments to Third-Party APIs Using Java. The journey of 1,000 integrations begins with a web service. So for those who don't know me, my name is John Jardin. I'm from a company called Agility based in South Africa, and I do a lot of multi-platform development work including Xpages, cloud, integration, microservices, mobile, you name it. To reach me, you can follow me on Twitter at John Jardin Codes, or you can also follow my blog at bleedingcode.com. So before we get busy with today's show, I just want to take a quick moment to thank Mr. Mark Lusink for assisting me with some of the Java logic that I prepared for the X snippet that I'll be showing you later on today. If it wasn't for him, I would have spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out a few things that I'm just not used to when it comes to Java. So a big thanks to Mark for taking the time and just helping me sort out a few things on my side. So with that being said, let's get on with the demo. So just to give a bit of context to this demonstration, a little while ago I was asked to take attachments inside Notes documents inside a Notes database and send them off to a third-party platform. I had to do this via a web API. So for those who don't know, there are two common ways that you can send files via web services. The first is what they call a multi-part data web service, and what this allows you to do is actually send multiple attachments as well as additional body content through to the third party. The second one is much simpler. It's when you just send a raw file, a single attachment as a raw file to the third party with a couple of HTTP headers. And today's demonstration will be focusing on the latter. So what I have over here is a very simple database. I've got a file attachment form with a rich text field called file, and I've got a view that just goes and displays the documents that have file attachments inside them. I've got an Excel test document over here, and I've also got a JPEG just showing, just so that I can show in this example that you can pretty much send any kind of file via this method. It doesn't really matter what file it is. Alright, so what I also have over here in the agent section is a Java agent called send file attachments, and I've already written some Java code over here, just a few lines of code, and if we go through it quickly, you'll see that I'm just getting the file attachments view and making sure that I set auto update to false, and then I loop through all the documents inside this view, and for each document I go and get the rich text field called file, and I go and get the first attachment inside that rich text field. Alright, so very simple. The rest of the code just loops through the view and does a similar thing. So what we want to do over here is, by this to do, we want to call the web service that will actually take this embedded object and it will send it through to the third-party web service. So in today's example, the third party that we're using is an integration service portal that I developed called Agility. So it's got a whole bunch of microservices that you could use for your day-to-day development work, and one of them is you can send Agility a file that it will store on its side and provide you with a unique key that you could reference that file later on, which is especially useful if you're chaining together multiple web services and you don't want to carry this file along with all these services, and rather have it stored in one place and get used later on. So we're going to be using that in today's example. Alright, so to get this web service, I have created on OpenNTF, if you go to opentf.org and you click on snippets, then it will open up this screen, and if you go and search by author, for example, under my name John V. Jardin, you'll see that there is an X snippet, send embedded object as file attachment to third-party web service. Very simple. So if we go inside there, this is what the code looks like, and what I'm going to do over here is I'm just going to copy this code to the clipboard, and I'm going to go back to our agent, and underneath this method I'm going to just go and paste this Java logic. Alright, so there's a couple of errors, but I'm sure all of this will get sorted out the moment I save the data. But let's just go through this logic quickly, this X snippet, because it's not too difficult. So you'll see over here that it accepts an embedded object that it can then process and send out. If we go further down, we have some web service variables over here. That's fine. And then we've got the endpoint URL and the request type. So you'll see I actually have here to do modify the endpoint URL and the request type as needed. So in my case, it's definitely going to be a post because we're posting data to the third-party web service, and it's not going to be localhost. I actually have the IP address over here that I'll be using. And let's just put that over there. So that's the URL that I'm going to be using. This is the URL to my local Agility server, and the API that I'm calling is upload file. And in your case, this might be something else. So whatever third party you connect into, you would have to go and modify the endpoint URL accordingly. Then what I do over here is I get the file name from the embedded object, because I use it, it's one of the requirements for Agility, so that I can actually store the file name as well. And then here's where we set up the web service. Very basic. This is standard. It won't be modified. And then if you go over here, you can see that there's another to-do item, which is set the header properties based on the third-party web service requirements. Okay, so in my case, what I need to do is set the content type to xwww form URL encoded. I have to set the authorization and provide an Agility token key. I have a temporary key that I can use here. Let me just copy this and paste it over there. And the third header property that I need to provide is the file name. So this is what Agility as a third party requires if you want to send it a raw file. Okay. So if we go down further, we've got this prep file for sending. This is where it takes the embedded object and it outputs the file attachment, and it sends it through the web service. And then we get to this point where we now expect a response back from the web service that we connected to, and I've just got some print statements so that it can send through the code and the message that was returned. And if the get response code was 200, that means that the result was successful. Otherwise, the result failed. And you can see over here, I keep populating this variable called result, and that is what this method, this snippet, returns back to whatever called it. Okay, so whether it was successful or whether it was failed or whether your agent failed, the result will always have a value that gets returned back. Okay, so when we do get the result, what I do over here is I just read the result and I store it inside the string value. So there's really not too much crazy stuff happening inside this X snippet. It's quite easy to use and to tweak and to modify according to your heart's desires. So we're already done with this. What I want to do over here is I want to copy this because I need to call this function when I loop through the notes documents over here. So I'm just going to go and say send file attachment, and I'm going to pass through the embedded object, which is what I also called it over here. Alright, so because I'm working in a Java agent and not like a managed bean or XPages kind of stuff, the reason why I put this in a Java agent is because my use case, I needed to do this as a scheduled process. So I just did it straight inside the Java agent, which works. But of course, this will work inside XPages as well. But let's go and fix these errors quickly. So it's as easy as just importing these values. How many are left? And that looks after that. Alright, so our code is ready to be tested, I think. So let's save this and close this and save that as well and close that. And what we're going to do now is we're going to run this agent via the Domino server as if it was a scheduled process. So I'm just going to go over here, and I've got it over here, tell AMGR run. So I just pointed to the database that the agent is stored in, and then I'm calling the agent name. Alright, so let's run this. Okay, so just some messages that I got back. I can see over here response code was 200. So that's all good and well. And I'm not too sure why the result is printing empty, but must have missed something over there. But if I go to this folder, this is a folder inside Agility where it actually stores these files that were sent to it, and you can see these files are sort of provided with a unique identifier and without any extension, just to keep it a little bit more invisible as best as possible. But if I go over here and I say, okay, fine, let's open this one. The first one was the JPEG, so if I just use preview over here, there's the JPEG that we sent. Okay, cool. And if I open up the second one was an Excel file, so let's just go and say fine, Microsoft Excel. We can see, there we go, this is the Excel file that I had inside the notes document. So that's it basically. I'm sure you can agree with me that it's not as complicated as one would have thought in order to send attachments via web APIs, and yeah, I did mention it in the beginning, but thanks again to Mark Lucy just for helping me with a couple of bits of lines of Java code over there. The second way of sending files is obviously the multi-part data. That's something I haven't attacked yet, and I aim to do so in the near future, and I'll most definitely also create a tutorial around that as well. And with that all being said, I will close off this demo. Thanks everyone for taking the time to watch this. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions regarding NotesIn9 or Mr. David Leedy himself, here is his contact details as well as the details of NotesIn9. And until next time, I thank you for your time.